Hello, I'm Lisa LeRose. Welcome to Connect to Love with Michael J. Russ and I on the Vibrant Living Network here on PRNFM. So imagine, if you will, that each day when you wake up to a beautiful love affair. And we all have the opportunity to reconnect with ourselves, to reconnect with our hearts. Many years ago, I was able to attend a conference, and I was introduced to the work of stand-up philosopher Tim Freke. And I was so inspired by his approach to life, to his melding of science and spirituality, and what he called sort of the mystery of life, the love affair with life that we have. And he said as a young boy, when he was beginning his own love affair with life, he said that it resembled really any love affair. You fall in love, you have those really special feelings, the tinglies that you get, but as he went through it, just like any love affair, things change. And so sometimes things get tough in life. We run into obstacles, we run into rough patches here and there, but it's how we navigate through those that really change ourselves and our perspective. And so Michael and I welcome you today. He is a dear friend of mine, Life Mood podcast founder, and just general stand-up philosopher yourself. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much. I'm really so happy to be here with you today. It's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, I know. So, we all have this experience called life. Tim Freke calls it, the magical mystery tour, which I think was so delightful. But he really, in all of his talks, he talks about the wow. He talks about the wonder. And he doesn't really explain what wow is, just that it is a word of wonder. It's a way of expressing astonishment, of awakening, of appreciation, which you and I have talked about for many, many different conversations. And I think it's an approach to life that you have taken, that I have taken, and, we all approach things in our own unique ways, and we have these collections of ideas that we've picked up along the way, which, for me was Tim Freke's book. And I so am very grateful that you're open to this conversation today, Michael. So I'm just going to say, wow. And turn it over to you.
No, I love it. We're talking about, the concept of what Tim Freke is describing in his book, which is the mystery experience. If you'd like to look it up as a listener, this is the kind of thing we all have to expose ourselves to. There are different ways of living life. And the unfortunate thing is that the way that vast majority of people I encounter live their life is from thing to thing. In other words, this thing they lined up, they get up in the morning, they go to work, and they encounter people, do things, whatever. There's a bunch of activities and circumstances they face at work, and at the end of work, they have they have a commute home. If there's a commute home, the same thing they encountered on the way, and it's just you go through this I call it the hamster wheel. You're running on a hamster wheel, and because our society, unfortunately, prepares you to run on the hamster wheel. That's what it's all about. From educational perspectives to higher educational perspectives. It's a grooming to be a great consumer of goods and services. And the unfortunate thing is that in many cases you fall into a trap of these goods and services and activities that are societal norms. You become imprisoned by them. And when that happens, you lose the wow. You lose the wonder. The wonder you had as a teenager about what am I going to do, what can I do, everything was possible, and then you get as the years go on, you become more and more boxed into a corner. And I was listening to actually I was reading an article about the fact that there are 9 million expats living outside the United States. And it was
wow.
9 million. I'm going like,
that's
wow.
Astounding.
That's a big number. I know a few of them. count them on one hand. However, 9 million is a lot, and this gentleman wrote a book about these 9 million. He's interviewed evidently as a writer, a journalist, more expats than anybody else, and he's kind of boiled it down to why they've left and whatever. And this hamster wheel concept was one that I've done a podcast about it in the past, a couple of years ago, the concept of running in place, running on a hamster wheel every morning. You get up, you get on the hamster wheel, you run, you get done at the end of the day. Where's the living in that? This is the question. Where's the living? Life owns you. You don't own life when you're in that situation. And then people gravitate towards, ask themselves, why am I not happy? Why am I not more loving of myself and others? Why am I not more grateful or appreciative of where I am in life and what I have? Well, because you are too busy running on the hamster wheel to actually breathe for a moment, sit back and enjoy and respect and give gratitude for what you've been able to do in your life, who you've been able to become. And the anxiety, it's either something in the past that you're bringing into the present that's creating fear or worry, or the future fears, which the anxieties that come from what could happen, the unknown, change, and how this world is changing at such a rapid, I'd say it's almost an exponentially rapid pace versus pre-computer, pre-digital, pre-24-hour news, pre-24-hour everything. And this hamster wheel has gotten somehow bigger and harder to run on. It's really what I say. Because in order to be happy and loving, in order to vibrate from those frequencies, you have to actually create the intention to do so and start clearing away the clutter. And this concept of the mystery experience of creating wow, and as you were, I want you to just, I'm going to stop right now because I want you to describe this concept of that Tim puts forth in his books about a trigger that he uses to help put himself back on track with regard to living from wonder. I mean, you do it, I do it. However, how do you do it is the big question. And this trigger concept, please just expound upon what he was talking about in the book, because I think it's a valuable tool once we create the intention to begin to live our lives in a different way, from wonder, from love, from happiness, from freedom. These are mindsets, states of being, to from where we are and how do we get there. That's really where I spend a lot of my time in terms of on my podcast and other things. How do we get there? How do we clear out the clutter? How do we trigger ourselves, create this intention, and then trigger ourselves to get into that state of being? Can you expound upon what he was talking about?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As you were talking, Michael, when you were speaking about the anxiety that everybody is feeling, one of the things that Tim speaks about is before he begins any retreat, he said it's very important for people to feel safe. And I think that that's really where a lot of this anxiety comes from, because there's so much on the news that makes us feel unsafe, or you run into somebody and they're focusing on something that's really the opposite of positive. And I heard, whether it's an urban legend or not, that a child will laugh 300 to 400 times a day, where an adult, maybe it's 20 times a day. And so, you look at what laughter is. It's a release. It's a joy. It's that bubbling over of the wow. So one of the tricks that Tim recommends is that you choose a word, a wow word, something that it's a word or a phrase that you say to yourself anytime that you notice that you're, as he calls it, asleep in your story, that will bring you back to the present moment. And so for him, one of the words that he really loves is the word breathe. And so he puts it on Post-it notes. So it might be in your car, it might be in the bathroom. And he said it's a word that is an awakening to you. What are you waking up to? To being present, to being in love, to being real, to waking up to your own mystery, whatever that is meant to evolve. And really, you and I have talked about this. Life is a journey. And, in any journey, sure, you can plan out a trip. I mean, I've done lots of trips where, I have an itinerary. They're not really to be quite honest, my favorite types of trips. I like to be open to whatever is going to unfold, and it drives some people crazy because they don't like to travel like that. They like to have an itinerary where we wake up at XYZ and there's no real variables involved. And when I went to Costa Rica, I went with a group of 6 individuals, and my friend and I, she was a travel agent, and we were on an ecological tour, and we had certain places that we needed to be, but in the morning at 5 a.m. I would be out and I would find a nice place to sit near a waterfall and just listen to the sound. And that wasn't on the itinerary, but that's when I got to sit down with the guide and I got to learn intimate things that so many other people seem to miss during that. So, Tim, he talks about, this is a constant experiment with yourself, just to be open to that space. I mean, maybe you'll pick the word breathe, but you find that it doesn't really work with you. But so you might want to choose a different word. Maybe it's freedom, maybe it's exuberance, maybe it's wonder, or maybe it's just even wow. I love that word. I mean, there's no other word like it. Wow, wow, wow.
Sure.
It really, it does. It says it all, right? I mean, it's hard
Absolutely.
not to smile and say the word wow.
True.
So
true.
Yeah. So, Michael, if you had a word that you could use as a trigger word, or maybe you even have one that helps you be present in this mystery and remembering to wonder, what would that word be?
Now you're putting me on the spot because now we have to think about this. I don't really approach it from that perspective. It's more like ingrained in the way I live when I get up every morning. Let's see. When I come upon the realization that I am in a situation where I am, and I love this line, asleep in your own life story, which is so apropos for what it actually is, asleep in your own illusion or whatever. I would probably use the word love. That would be the word
beautiful.
that I would pick. I'd pick the word love because I'm always I am incessantly focused on experiencing love, feeling it, and feeling my love for myself and my life, and finding the love in everything. I know that may sound a little bit corny. However, what's interesting is, for me, that love is that warm feeling you get in your solar plexus and your heart, and it's unlike any other kind of feeling. I guess I don't know how to. That's the only way I can really describe it. You're in the present moment, just looking around. You're just experiencing what's happening, and you're saying to yourself, "Oh my gosh, this moment is amazing." And it's not even like you're saying it. You're just feeling it. Feeling the moment.
Yeah.
And you just don't want it to end, so you keep doing what it is that you were doing that's creating that feeling. And you don't allow other things to contaminate the moment of that feeling. So the realization that there's so much outside of you that you cannot control, that's going on, that has nothing to do with you or your life story, your where you're going in life, what your mission is in life. The thing I tell people most often is, or I share on my podcast, is that people, you can become consumed by the drama and the news and the information that is so prevalent in our society today, which is simply designed to basically take over your feelings, to control your feelings. Or you can say, no, not going to allow that to happen. If I'm sitting in the backyard just enjoying the sun going down and the beauty of how it looks, I'm sitting on the east side of the house, the sun is setting on the west side of the house, and it's this time of day when everybody knows what it is, where you see the light and the shadows, how the sun is coming down. It's creating these different colors, different like striations of colors, and it continues to change, and then it gets orange, and it's just, man, to me it's just so amazing. I want to sit there. The last thing I want is a text or a phone call from somebody about something that has no relevance to my life. It's relevant for them, but it has no relevance to that moment or my life. And many times what we have to do is deal with that in a way where you literally say, no, I am not going to allow that to contaminate this moment. I'm going to feel this as long as I can feel this. And if there's something that I have to do, some response that's necessary for me, as long as it's not a full-blown emergency where I've got to go give CPR to somebody, I'm going to enjoy this. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to seek opportunities to experience this feeling from the other things I encounter, and I'm going to design my day around experiencing this. When you start looking at life from that perspective, which is my version of intentionally creating the wow in the day. That's really what it's about. It's creating it with intention. Now this is a challenge, again, as I said, in this society that we live in today, because there is so much drama going on around us. Everybody, it seems as if everybody is caught up in their own life story, their own illusion. Everything is so important to them, and they have to solicit you for advice. They have to find out what you feel about it, what you think about it. And really, when I have somebody like that come to me, I simply impart to them that this is your life story. This is for you to figure out. This is your life journey. And I could say something, however, it's just saying something. I could give you a top 10 things that I would suggest you do. Whether you do them or not is not up to me. This is for you to figure out. This is your evolution. Your journey to be a better person tomorrow than you are today, not mine. Everybody has that journey, those things. The connection with you with regard to wanting to share their drama is fear. Fear of what it means to them. Fear of what it means to their future. And what I also impart is understand that the root of all this concern and worry and function you have is fear. It's fear of the unknown, fear of change that's occurring in your life, or that you're being forced to experience. But step back and just step out of the drama, step out of the circumstance that's causing that fear, so that you can see it for what it is. And this is a function of training. We can talk about wow, we can talk about wonder, we can talk about this concept of living with wonder. However, if you don't develop a narrative, a construct a path, let's say, that you can follow every single day to get to that point, to experience that wonder, which is already there within you. We all know that. It's already there. We just got to let it out. We had it as kids. We were happy, as you were talking about earlier, laughing hundreds of times a day as a child. It was there. We just covered it up with all the other garbage, all the other stuff in life that we think has value, think has meaning, so we have to pay attention to it. It doesn't in any way positively contribute to our lives. It's just stuff that goes on. And much of it isn't to us directly. It's us reacting to what's happening to other people. And my focus on that is, as long as you experience and engage with life through love, empathy, compassion, and kindness, you're doing the right thing. Yeah, that's literally it. And that's in some cases that involves sending love and light to someone halfway around the world. Okay, we're going through this Ukrainian thing right now. There's millions of refugees, people being displaced. Yeah, you can give money to refugee agencies. You can do this. However, what you can really do is you can send love and light to that whole region. You can send love and light. And you get millions and millions of people sending love and light to that region. It does create change. It's been proven by science that actually does create, it makes things better, because there's so much fear, so much worry, there's so concern. That's just one of many things. I heard the other day, and I have no idea because I don't pay that much attention, and I know you don't either, but there are 27 conflicts going on around the world right now. I'm going, 27? Where are they? 27 conflicts. And I'm like, wow, I didn't really know that. Again, things happen in our lives for a reason, and a reason personal to us, and we have to, embrace the opportunity for evolutionary change in our own thinking, in our own feelings, the ability to practice. This is one big earthly plane for practicing being a sovereign and being and practicing the alchemy that on our daily basis makes things better. And by the way, this move, choosing love or breath as breathing as a trigger, it's a form of alchemy. It literally is alchemy. You have a word that you are going to use whenever you get in this place of, being asleep in your own life story and being caught up in the drama of your own life story, or the toxicity of your life story that's going on out there. Has me saying, okay, love, that's it, love. It's going to disconnect me from that, and it's going to give me different feelings. And that's what the transformational alchemy is really all about. That's what you're doing. This is a great tool, awesome tool for doing that.
Michael, when you were talking about the light streaming in, I had a really strong memory come up to me of being a child. My mother had a perfume diffuser, I don't know, like a bottle that, you would, and it was crystal. And when the sun would come through the window and go through that prism, it was the most magnificent colors. And I remember sitting there as a child just fascinated as the colors would go through that prism. And then I would see, my mother was an immaculate housekeeper, but because the sun would come through, I would see dust. I would see dust particles
floating around in the air.
Floating through the air, right?
That's standard.
And I remember just sitting in wonderment at the color and the dust and just almost being empty, but just mesmerized. I could sit there and watch that for hours and see the way the light would reflect off of things. And, it just would fascinate me. And I think if we can recall those times, I mean, obviously it was a simpler time. There was no cell phone. There was, there was still television. I don't even think there was HBO.
HBO and 3 other channels.
Not too much at that time. But, I think that what you're saying is to reconnect to that. And in those, moments, whether or not you were a Dr. Seuss fan, you thought, well, does anybody live on that speck of dust? And is there communications? I mean, you just sort of let yourself flow with whatever that is. And I think as I would encourage anybody, deep in your own space, whatever that looks like for you, to open yourself up to wonder and that wow right now. I mean, there's certain, I think a space that when I remember myself as a child, and then when I went to Tanzania, and I remember seeing this building that was vacant, but at the top of it said House of Wonder, and I thought to myself,
it's vacant?
That's where I want to live. I want to live in the House of Wonder. And all I could think of was when I come home, I want to paint that on the outside of my house so that I can live in the House of Wonder. But that really is just an illusion, right? I can choose to I don't have to have it painted. It can be painted on my heart.
It can be a House of Wonder. It can be you can paint it in your own mind. Be anywhere, and anywhere is a house of wonder. And you can find joy. You can find wonder. You can find the magic in anywhere that you are. It's just a function of where your focus is, where your attention is. And being someone who chooses to go there versus going somewhere else, down a deep, dark rabbit hole of the why, the how, the craziness that is so prevalent in our world today, because that's what we get. There's lots of wonder out there, and this is the thing I think it's important to understand. There is lots of wonder out there going on. There are so many amazing things happening in our world today. The problem is that they don't make money. Bringing them to you doesn't make money. And there is I don't make any money from this. There is an email a newsletter that I take called The Optimist. The Optimist. And I took it when it was a magazine a decade ago, and now it's just an online news letter. And what they do is they cull the internet for positivity, for positive stories about
wonderful.
people building their life, and what things that are going on that are helping people lead better lives. And there's something else as well called Yes Magazine. It's a nonprofit out of Marin County, I think, in California. It's called Yes Magazine, which is all about positive things going on, change, things going on in neighborhoods, how to create credit unions, and how indigenous things going on in indigenous communities. I mean, it's really, really rather interesting with regard, but it all has a yes bent. That's what it's called, yes. It's all about it. We can do this kind of thing. There are these sources of information that we can tap into that don't have the negativity associated with them. And when I read these things, either Yes Magazine or I look at The Optimist, I get a sense of wonder in that anything and everything is still possible. You know, this is so much of life today can lead you to believe that it's not possible anymore. It's not possible to love on that scale anymore. If you've lost love in your life and you're wondering whether or not you can live love like that again, absolutely. To say you can't is literally programming that reality for yourself. And if you say I can, it may not be exactly the same way. It's likely going to be a different way, because if you'd lost an individual who you were in love with, that you experienced love with, experienced life with, then the next person isn't going to be the same individual, but you'll experience a different form of that reality of love. And it's all about how you program that reality for yourself. Your perception of life is really what you're living. Your perception of life is what you live every day. And if your perception is negative, if your perception is that it's not possible, if it's a can't perspective versus a can perspective, you'll color everything that goes on in your life in that way, based on that perspective. Your feelings will emanate from it. Your inner conversations will emanate from it. Your actions and responses to things that occur in life will emanate from that perception. And your inner conversation about what you think about yourself and what you're capable of will emanate from that perception. What an amazing way to live if your perception of life is one of wow. If it's a wow perception. And then all this, it's like the wow is the root of the tree. It's from which everything else grows, and that's really the way this works. The tree grows taller, and the more you embrace wow and living with wonder, the tree of your life gets bigger. Its branches become fuller, and all the things that occur that emanate from that positive perception of wow and wonder, living from wonder, that choice you make, creates a beautiful tree. Creates an absolutely beautiful, gorgeous, dynamic tree, a big, beautiful, vibrant tree, which this is what we all want in our lives. The question is, how do you get it? And I've just basically said how to get it. It starts with that initial perception of yourself and your life and what you decide to embrace. It all starts there. It's an interesting conundrum that people I tell that to, they're like, what? But what about all these things that are occurring? I said, it's just stuff.
You're absolutely right. You know, and as you're saying that, it reminded me, you know, Ray Bradbury, the author, says, you know, stuff your eyes with wonder. Live as if you drop dead in 10 seconds. See the world. It's fantastic.
It is.
You know,
it's amazing. Bradbury.
More than any dream made or, you know, paid for in factories, which is exactly what you're saying, you know, and I love that allusion to stuffing your eyes with wonder. You know, it's like sitting at the Thanksgiving table and, you know, okay, I'll have some more of that, I'll have some more wonder, I'll have some more wow, you know, pass that that over to me and, really fill yourself up to it. And I would encourage anybody that listens to us here on the Vibrant Living Network, Connect to Love on PRN-FM, to please tune into Michael J. Russ's Life Moves podcast at lifemovespodcast.com. I know you're on a lot of other venues as well, but I know each week you share so many incredible insights, and I love the perceptions and I can just visualize that tree and the branches and what grows from that. And for us to be able to have that wonder, growing from each branch of the tree, never knowing what is going to blossom. Is it going to be a leaf? Is it going to be, grow to be a nut to feed and grow more trees? A seed that's being planted. I absolutely 100% love that and embrace it. And I think it's just incredible. Thank you very much for that, Michael, because it's
a great visual, but that's the way it happens. Take a look at your tree and see, what you've created, and can your life change? Absolutely. It becomes more of a challenge when you're involved with other people that don't share the same, that haven't reached this point of conscious awareness where they're willing to embrace wonder. However, you can be a great role model. You can be a great role model. You can influence through being a role model where you believe it and engage in it yourself. It's interesting. You talk about, Thanksgiving at a table. Thanksgiving. What's interesting, there's two schools of thought because people approach Thanksgiving in different ways. Some people from a perspective of, what they experienced as a child in their childhood with regard to Thanksgiving. They can become adult, and they do everything they can to recreate their childhood experience when it comes to Thanksgiving dinner. And to that I say, Thanksgiving dinner is what you perceive it to be. So the perception, hanging on to a perception that no longer fits your what's going on in your life at that time, you have to be open. You have to be open to change and to embracing a different perception. The perception of what is it? Is it really an opportunity for people to come together and share a meal with each other, share fellowship, share conversation, share laughter, share joy, share love? That's really what it's about and what it should be about. It wasn't necessarily, with all due respect to the indigenous peoples here in the United States, you'll get many different variations of what Thanksgiving is. Thanksgiving technically, for me, is just an opportunity to be grateful and to experience and share with other people. That's what it is, to get people together. It's disassociated. I disassociate that from what the initial Thanksgiving was all about, which was kind of not so great. However, we can make it what we want it to be. We can embrace the concept of being grateful in our lives for everything that we have, and we can run with that. And we can we don't have to be stuck in what it means to us in a little box. And if it's outside that box, we're unhappy. If it's outside that box, if it's different, the stuffing should be this way, or no, wait a minute, hold on a second. If it's not this way, I'm not going to enjoy it. If there's no stuffing, I'm not going to enjoy it. Really? You going there? With what is this really about? It comes to when we start thinking about it in that way, it becomes ludicrous that we wouldn't just enjoy what it's really all about. The love and the fellowship and the gratitude and forgiveness for yourself. Forgiveness should be a huge part of everyday life. It's interesting. I saw somebody I was in Biloxi, and there was a woman sitting next to me, and she I was at a bar playing Keno or something, just killing some time and people watching, And the bartender was awesome. He was an African-American gentleman who had so much life, he was so bubbly, it was insane. And he was talking about how he loves to travel. And I'm going, hey, man, awesome for you. Kudos to you. He says, yeah, I travel. But I travel I travel, he was a millennial, he says, I travel, with a backpack, and I go to hostels because that's where I meet people. I meet people. Yeah, he says, I like to get involved with the culture of where I am. I don't want to just sightsee. I don't want somebody telling me where the sites are and whatever. I want to get involved. And I said, kudos to you, man. That's awesome. He was so bubbly. He was so energetic about it, talking about, he said, I've been to 32 countries. And I'm going, all right. Wow, that's so amazing. And it was just, with this woman sitting next to me, she was wearing a mask that said forgiveness on it. And I noticed it, and when she got up to leave, I said, don't you love living a life of forgiveness? And she says, oh, yeah. And I said, absolutely. And it's just like you're sitting there, and it's such a surreal moment because there's such energy around you, such vibrance. And other people were looking at us when we were talking about, I was telling about, some place that I said, you've been to Turkey? He says, no. I said, you definitely want to go there. And if you like, history and you like people are awesome, and it started to assemble and branch out. We started this whole conversation about that. And it was just so cool. But you get into, I love putting myself in situations. I could have just sat there and not said anything to anybody and just played my little Keno game and just, whatever. But that's not me. I like to engage with people. Not. I like to find out who this person is and find out how they feel about life. And that's what makes me happy, is finding out how other people are engaging in life and why they feel the way they feel. And he was sitting there saying, yeah, I'm just planning my next trip, and I said, well, it was kind of like you liking to travel. You don't necessarily plan everything. I abhor scheduling. I'm not going to anywhere with a schedule unless I'm a writer and I'm on somebody else's dime and I'm writing a story about something in a country and they brought me over there to do so. Then it's work. However, I still get to engage with individuals, with people. And that's how I've been to Malaysia twice, which is a place that it never surprises me how many people that I come across that actually, I say a country like Turkey, or I say Morocco, or I say Vietnam, or I see some other country, Cambodia or whatever, and they're like, oh, I'd never go there. And I'm going, why not?
Why not?
And it's because of fear. It's because of what they've been listening to in the media. And unfortunately, what people don't get is, if you're living in the United States, or you're living in Canada, or you're living in Mexico, or whatever's being put out there about your country, that's what people believe. Even though it might be a microcosm of what's happening in your country, it becomes a full-on description of everything going on. It becomes a label, which if you don't go because your perception is negative, then you're going to miss out on so much. And you do yourself an injustice because you never know who you're going to meet. The thing I like to say is, and this, when we talk about living from wow or living from wonder, if I'm going somewhere, I never assume the reason I originally chose to go there is the reason why I'm there. So I'm always looking for the underlying reason. What's the metaphysical reason, the spiritual reason why I'm here? Who am I supposed to meet? Who am I supposed to connect with? Who am I supposed to learn something from? Who am I supposed to share something with? Whose life am I supposed to enhance while I'm here? And I have those thoughts running through my head, and I'm always on the lookout. And invariably, there will be someone who I engage with. It could be a server. It could be someone who's doing the same thing I'm doing, playing golf or doing something else. However, we get into a conversation, and lo and behold, I either end up sharing my podcast with them, or I end up sharing some form of wisdom based on what it is, because that's what the universe does with me. It puts me in positions where I can enhance the quality of someone's thinking. I've come to understand that is what I do. My girlfriend looks at me and she goes, oh, yeah, you're having another one of those conversations. Absolutely. Because this is, we came here to relax or to do whatever, or go play golf or go lay by the pool or whatever. However, it's the person I met in the hot tub that becomes a friend for life. That is why I'm there. It's not to do all those other things. You see, and it's always wonderful to look at life that way, as to why did I make this decision to come here? And who is it that I'm supposed to engage with? Who can I meet that can enhance the quality of my life or give me an opportunity to enhance the quality of their life, to help them connect with love, connect to love on a greater level,
Absolutely.
on a higher level, to connect to who they are. Maybe the universe has put me together with them because they're experiencing some anxiety from something, or they're experiencing loss and they need a different perspective to move forward. And the universe goes, yeah, we got that guy Michael Russ. He's gonna be. We'll make sure he goes there and connects with this person. And says, and you just have to share something very simple. Just listen and feel what they're feeling, and turn them on to how they can experience more wonder in their lives. This is really to stay in context here with what we're talking about. Is that's what I do, and I know you do the same thing.
Yeah, well, Michael, when you were speaking about that bartender, I couldn't help but think it connected to our conversation about the tapestry of life. And
exactly.
That as this gentleman was sharing with you how he travels and how he arrives and how he ingrains himself and really gets to feel the people and connect to their hearts, there's places that he's been that you haven't been, that may not have been on your radar screen, but something that he's gifted you in your listening may pique your interest enough to travel there. And now that you've mentioned Turkey to him, I'm sure it's on his radar. And who knows, maybe he'll plan a trip there and he'll meet the love of his life. And it's just that conversation that you shared with him that can open up a gateway of new possibilities. And I it's just that it's the miracle of the journey. It's the miracle of life. It's being open to that mystery experience, which we spoke about initially. And I just, that's one of the things I so appreciate about you, Michael. You're a lot like me. Nobody would have ever imagined that I was shy as a child, because
you too?
I was so introverted and so shy.
Mm-hmm.
And I like you, I hung back and I watched things and I watched people. And at some point, I had to overcome the fear of calling and ordering a pizza. I was terrified. It was a completely irrational fear. I don't know what. I'm like, no, you call, you make the phone call. I can't do it. It's something so simple that now you just take for granted and you pick up the phone. And it's, life is like those types of moments, whether it be as simple as ordering a pizza, and then you realize, well, yeah, no, I don't know what I thought somebody was going to do to me. But to overcome that, and then to stand in an elevator and pretend that I'm not just looking at my shoes. I actually look around and, hey, how are you today? And
yeah, exactly. It's so much fun. To stand in an elevator, like I say, you're seeing somebody and they're standing next to you with luggage, and you're going, have a great trip, have a safe trip, travel safely, whatever, or just ask them if you're traveling 50 floors, you can say you have enough time to ask them where they're from or where they're going to, and did they enjoy themselves, and was there anything special about what they did here that they could share, and what's neat is it doesn't matter. I mean, I see everyone as a soul, a ball of light. The clothes, the type, their color, their height, their weight, their shape. These are just suits of clothes that a soul wears, in my view, in this lifetime. So judgment is the last thing I resort to. I'm just a friendly face. And for those who know me, I'm African American, so I talk to a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life. I grew up all over the world, basically engaging with people who didn't speak English, and I learned to read body language. I learned to read facial expressions. I learned to read tones of voice and other things of that nature. And every place I've gone, I've respected their culture by simply learning to be cordial, learning enough language of their language to be cordial, to say thank you, and to say please, and to to say hello and goodbye and learn the term that encompasses, their aloha, so to speak, which is, in the Philippines we lived there was mabuhay. And, it's one of these things that you learn. But the beauty of tying this all back to wonder and the wow is that when you choose to live, to embrace life from that perspective of, hey, wonder, if you just choose to live through wonder and experience life through wonder and choose wonder as your perception, then your life is so much richer because now you're God, it's like living between the lines, and you're it's kind of a challenge to describe it. However, you can find joy in anything, and
absolutely,
when you train yourself to find that joy, to find that love in any moment, even if it's just, and I could experience that with people on an elevator, just being kind and being being conversational. They get off the elevator. I wish them a great trip, and I'm on to the next moment in my life where I can do that. And if I run into a server on the way, I'll say, excuse me, and here's a tip for you. I know you're working really hard today. And they go, oh my gosh, there was a woman today that I don't know what it was. Something that she was somewhere, and I would have tipped her if she'd done something for me, and I'm desperately thinking of where it was today because I do this so often. I was sitting. Oh, I'll tell you one of the stories. I was sitting at breakfast today, and I encourage people to change their state of being by participating in something called altruism. Mm-hmm. Which is incredibly rare out there nowadays because so many people have a purpose behind what they do, and people in terms of their giving want to be acknowledged in one way or another. Altruism is giving without the need for acknowledgement, and it's so much fun. It makes you feel like a million feet tall. And I was sitting at breakfast this morning with my girlfriend, and we'd gone from one hotel to another. Our favorite hotel was booked, so we went over there for breakfast anyway this morning before we left. And we're sitting down, and there's a woman in a booth right next to us. And she was asking about whatever, and I got the sense, because she was asking about how many points were on her card, and could you check for me? And, I said to myself, this woman deserves I don't know why she's asking all these questions. However, I can intuit from this that she's concerned about the cost of whatever it is that she'd like to get. She's asking about different foods and what they cost. And I said, and I got up, and when the conversation with her was over, and I walked over to the gal that was serving her, who was also serving us. Her name was Jennifer. And by the way, it's always great to get people's names and call them by their names. It's something that I love to do. I'll look up to them. They've got a name badge on, and they forget the name badges there. And I go, hey, Barry, what's up? Oh, what? Who? How'd you know?
That's wonderful.
Barry, how's your life today, man?
It's that connection. It's that connection and the acknowledgement.
I went over to the waitress, and I said, listen, whatever she wants, I got it. And just bring me the check so I can write her a nice little note, so that when we're gone, she can get the check and she can have a little note. And she goes, oh, wow, yeah, okay. I said, anything. I don't care what it is that she wants. I'll take care of it. Just bring me the check. And it's like, don't tell her it's me. It's not important that it's me. I'm not doing this for the ego. I'm doing this because this woman is asking these questions, and I want her to have a sense when it's over that she doesn't have to pay anything. Somebody did that to me in that same restaurant 2 years ago. Oh. And I remember how it made me feel. And I didn't know who did it. But I know that even today I tear up when I think about it, because that person, it never happened before. I do it to a lot of people. It never happened to me before, and I was blown away. And this person wrote me a note that said, "You are such an awesome human being. You're so amazing, and I just wanted you to know that." And I picked up your breakfast, and I'm like, "Oh, geez," but I loved it. I said, it's like, I don't fall in love with. I release my attachment, I should say, to her reaction. I did it out of love and understanding, and to be able to. It was more about how I felt amazing being able to just do that and not worry about or think about what her reaction was going to be. I didn't want her to know it was me. That would have, created this whole conversational thing and whatever. I said, look, somebody in here bought you your breakfast and gave you a note, and I signed it, Angel Michael, when I got done.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And it was awesome. And I just went on about my business, thinking to myself, and I encourage people to be more altruistic, to give to people. I gave somebody else a tip that was. Not to toot my own horn here, because that's kind of might be what it sounds, but I'm just attempting to give people the sense of how to create the kind of feelings, because we get so caught up in, I've only got so many dollars, or I need to get from here to there, or I'm here to do this, and the people we connect with along the way just basically get tossed aside. There's no thought given to that soul that's there. We're all souls. We're all, whether that soul has $1 million, $10 million, $1 billion, doesn't make a difference, or no money. They're still a soul, and their soul is there to learn and expand just like every other soul. And that's the way I look at things. So I don't get caught up in celebrity worship and all that. My brother's a celebrity. I know him as being just a basic guy. He's, and I know him, and I know his character, and I know who he is, and I understand that there's this little game in Hollywood of, the A list, the B list, the C list, the this, the that, which is only created to elevate someone's self-importance and to get a bigger paycheck. It's all about the money. However, just to say one last thing, Prince, who was an amazing musical phenomenon, was an altruist. And most people don't know this. However, he gave millions of dollars to the inner city Oakland to build a solar array to help save on the energy bills of inner city inhabitants in Oakland, California. Never said a word about it. It only came out after he died. However, I'm sure he felt more made that it was one of the most important things that he'd ever done, other than music or making hits or owning his own copyrights and everything. When you do that, when you pick the right situation or circumstance and you help elevate, you give without the need to acknowledge, which is about anything. It doesn't make any difference who it is. It's just you don't need to be acknowledged for it. It makes you feel absolutely amazing. You feel the love, because you're connecting with somebody in a different way, in a way that is not connected to the ego. I hope that our listeners can understand that and pay it forward, so to speak. And which is sometimes what I do. I say, if someone says, if it comes out that it was me or whatever, I just say pay it forward. They say thank you. I say you're welcome, but pay it forward. Help somebody else out somewhere down the line.
Yeah, you're passing on the love, and what I think when you do that, and when other our listeners do that, it encourages you. It just fills you up. It fills you up with life. It fills you up with your own sense of love. I mean, to be able to gift somebody something anonymously and allow them to be in that space of wonder, right? You gifted that lady that, where she wondered, what was it that you saw in her? What was it you heard from her? What was it that, sparked somebody to share a random act of kindness towards another human being? And that's really what this world is so much in need of. And, each week we delve into these conversations, and it just opens up more wonder for me. I'm just so thrilled, Michael, that you're, able to join us, and that our audience here on PRM FM does make the time to listen. It touches my heart, and I know that it does yours. And we're coming to the close of our show, but I want to read something from Tim Freke's book that really it's stuck with me all these years. I've had this book probably for 15 years or so, and it never has left me. And then I'd love for you to close out the show based on this. So he speaks about, there's a colloquialism in Pennsylvania, I believe it's with the Amish, where they say, it wonders me. And as he says in the book, he says, I really like that because life wonders me deeply. Wonder with me. It wonders me that the world is so rich and vivid. It wonders me that the universe is so vast, yet full of exquisite detail. It wonders me that I'm alive and experiencing this precious moment. It wonders me that I can think and feel and sense and imagine. It wonders me that you are you and yet I am me. It wonders me how good it feels to simply be. It wonders me that I could ever forget how much I love being. Does it wonder you?
Oh, my gosh. That is such an absolutely beautiful piece of writing. And it actually rhymes, which is really even more beautiful. I will simply say that that is the statement, it wonders me, is so beautiful. So beautiful. I love these colloquialisms that come out of places, that come out of a different perception of life, whether it's Amish or Native American or whatever. There's such beautiful there's such a beautiful way of saying something. And I need to take this time because people, you listeners out there, I know if you'd like to re-listen to this program, if you'd like to listen to it and absorb what we're saying yet again, we have a podcast, Connect to Love. Look it up on Apple, on Google Podcasts. Look it up on Spotify. Connect to Love, the podcast. Each one of these shows is archived as a podcast that you can listen to over and over again. You could share with your friends, family, people that you know could benefit from the message that we are imparting this week or next week or last week or 4 or 5 weeks ago. It's an archive you can go back and tap into at any given time. And because literally, wonder is something that we all need to participate in. It's a function of our own being, that it can really enhance who we are. And to have the ability to say, I want to go back and listen to that because I missed something. You'll always find something unique and new in re-listening to one of our podcasts, one of our shows. So as well as the live show on Saturday, there is a podcast where we archive everything. So please do listen. Please share.
Thank you. And enjoy a wonder-filled week and every day. Your life is precious. Enjoy it.
Yes, love it.